Hey everybody, it's Ice Cave Radio. It's episode 50. It's Doa and CHARM3R here with you as usual, and I can't believe it's episode 50 already. I wasn't here since the very, very beginning, but I've been here since like 14 or something, I think it is. So long enough, anyway, to appreciate the gravity of what's been accomplished, I suppose. But yeah. It's been a lot of fun. Looking forward to a lot more. It's nice to have our number of episodes higher than our ages. That feels good.
Yeah, that's essentially the only thing that feels good on my end. Because I turned 40 over the weekend and then promptly was in pain. Just
Happy
all over.
birthday.
Slept wrong, pulled a muscle. I tripped kind of and tweaked my knee on the stairs trying to not step on a cat. And turns out you're not supposed to do that. And so that, and I'll be honest, like I didn't take care of my body as a youth. I have a lot of injuries, some pre-existing conditions.
I see.
That are just acting up now that I'm a bit older. But yeah, it hurts all over.
All right. Well, I mean, I just recently made it to 41, and I feel like that's when it really began for me, you know, the aches and pains. But at the same time, I'm not ready to pin it all on age, because this was also the first year of like Doa the dad, right? And so I had like bad posture. I was like hunched over, you know, like bottle feeding and all that. And then like I didn't go to the gym since she was born pretty much. And like I haven't been eating as well, like more stress, of course. So I'm going to blame it all on that. And soon I'm going to be back in the gym. I'm going to be back on the right foods, and I'm going to look like Tom Cruise or Chuck Norris or all those other people that are in their, you know, advanced age of more than 40 and looking great. Don't worry. I'm going to be right there with them. I'm confident.
This is, of course, assuming that your kids don't do what mine did, which is cause more injuries. I love my children, but my left leg is just pretty tore up. I tore my hamstring really severely in my 20s playing flag football. And then after Stark was born... Yeah, flag football was a non-contact injury. I was playing defense. Somebody cut on an in route, and when I planted my foot, the heel hit the ground too hard, and I literally felt it tear up my leg, and I collapsed like mid-run.
That sounds
so that
awful. Was
a thing. But in that same leg, because it was already then, you know, not strong because of the previous injury, Stark hyperextended my knee and tore my meniscus on that same leg.
I tore my meniscus a couple of years ago, falling during a hiking thing. I hit some like gravel and on the way down. Downhill is always way more dangerous on some of these like harder trails.
Oh,
but
for sure.
My knees were already messed up from years of skateboarding, and I was a pretty good skateboarder. If you don't know skateboarding that well, maybe you've heard this. Like I could do a 360 flip, which I thought was pretty good. I was like a decent skateboarder, but in the process of that, my ankles and knees took a beating, as well as my head. But there's clearly no there's clearly no repercussions from the concussions I got. Clearly. Yeah, clearly. So anyway, let's talk about Star Wars Unlimited.
Yeah, this is, believe it or not, a Star Wars Unlimited podcast.
It is. It's not the aches and pains
a Star
podcast.
Wars Galaxies Revival podcast. Sometimes a Decipher Star Wars trading card game podcast, and all things in between.
Yeah.
And as part of our podcast, every week we do this fun thing called the Cave Poll of the Week.
All right, so the Cave Poll of the Week. This was one that you wrote, CHARM3R. We kind of swap off and on with these. So this was yours. Do you want to set us up before we reveal the results here?
Absolutely. First, I apologize to everyone. Normally these go out on Sundays, but because of the holiday weekend, you were camping and I was actually at a store showdown on Sunday. And so this did not get posted till after the weekend. But with all of the reveals, we're in the midst of spoiler season. And while I know that we haven't seen all of the leaders yet, I found myself at my store showdown this weekend thinking like, man, I can't wait to try some of these cool new leaders that we've already seen. There's some really spicy stuff. And then that just segued into a very natural poll of, hey, which Shadows of the Galaxy leader are you most excited for? And at the time that the poll was posted, we did not have the Kira leader debuted yet. So the choices were Bosk, Kylo Ren, Rey, Bo-Katan, The Mandalorian, Lando, Hunter, Hondo Onaka, Moff Gideon, and of course Boba Fett back at it again in set 2.
So what did you choose? What was your choice? We'll share our choices, and then I'll show the results.
This is actually a bit of a surprise for me, because up until, like a week or two ago, I was firmly on the like, hey, I'm going to build Bo-Katan because I wanted a control option or aggression, specifically on the heroism side, because the set 1 heroism aggression leaders just didn't lend themselves as well to control. And I think Bo-Katan, at a minimum, mid-range style, but could potentially be a control leader. However, after she was revealed, Rey is the one who has me like really licking my chops to build around, because I think that her ability has the potential to be very powerful. I think that her like kind of on-demand restore 3 is going to be really powerful. Because of her 6 health, she dodges takedown. Doesn't dodge everything though. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but
we'll get to that.
I do think that she's really powerful. And in set 1, I kept trying to make a vigilance heroism deck work, but I kept, what happened is I was always back to it. Well, you have Chewie, who you can kind of do a build around, but not quite the same. You have Luke, who, if you're trying to use his ability, you're kind of paying a tax of sorts, and there's pros and cons to that. And Rey has her own tax as well, but it's more so, in my opinion, like you're going to use it to buff your smaller units, but you don't have to just fill your deck with only smaller units. So It's one of those things where it gives you a bonus like either late game or when you need it. So I think that it's just a more attractive thing than Luke. And then Chirrut's really cool, but he's just more of like a Voltron type leader. So Rey just offers me an experience that I don't think I had the opportunity to like really do or live in set 1. So right now, and I'm surprised because I'm normally a very aggressive person, but the 2 leaders that appeal to me the most right now are actually control-ish leaders.
Yeah, so you picked Rey. Okay. She does look fun. She looks like kind of a twist on the Tarkin idea, right? Where you're handing out some experience points. Similar effect, but done in a different way, different method. So, it'll be interesting to see how she plays out stylistically compared to Tarkin, who has a similar on a basic level ability. I went with Bo-Katan Kryze for my choice with this for a couple different reasons. One is I like the idea of control via just damage to your opponent's units. I really want to play the Mandalorians and play a bunch of upgrades. I think that seems like a lot of fun. The Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, is another leader I want to try out. He's one of the starter leaders. But Bo-Katan, Bo-Katan Vigilance, I think I'm looking forward to playing. And just playing kind of more of a, not even hardcore control, but more like kind of a tempo-y, mid-rangey version, like higher mid-range with her, where you're doing a lot of unit control through damage early on and then coming in with bigger upgraded units down the line to try to close things out. Sounds like a fun play style, so looking forward to giving that a try. But let's take a look at what you, the viewers at home, chose. Here are our results, and it was Bosk who took the win with 20 votes, a little over 100 votes in this one. Kylo Ren was second with 19 votes. I think that was another deck that I was very close to choosing because I just love the idea of aggression and discarding. That does look like a lot of fun. Your choice, Rey, came in third with 18 votes. Bo-Katan with 15 votes. Really, the top 5 leaders were all very, very close, within 6. The Mandalorian coming in at number 5. And then we have a bit of a drop-off, and then Lando, Hunter, Hondo, and then a single vote for Moff Gideon, and a single vote for Boba Fett, not Bo-Katan, Boba Fett Daimyo, the heroic Boba Fett. So, what do you think about the breakdown?
First of all, I love that there is a bunch of leaders getting love, because that means that you've had some really good design hits. I also think that some of the ones that did not get as much love are a bit of a sleeper, in my opinion. I think that the Boba Fett leader is better in practice than he looks on paper. But I'm surprised, if I'm being honest, that Bosk won. I'm very excited about Bosk. I think that the bounty mechanic is just going to be a very intriguing facet that we get in set 2. But if you would have said, like, hey, who do you think is going to win this before we posted it, Bosk would not have been... even in like the top 3 of the leaders that I would have chosen, I thought it was either going to be like a Kylo, a Ren, a Rey, Kylo Ren,
a Ren, double Kylo.
Raylo. I thought it was going to be Raylo. I'm just going to ship them together.
Many
That's the
have
one downside to
shipped
the
it.
Twin
Yep.
Suns rules, because I really want a Kylo Twin Suns deck. They should make.
Hey, maybe there'll be like
Corruption.
a dying Kylo leader and he's heroism or something, because he was
Yeah.
like, they tried to make him heroic in like the last 5 minutes of the trilogy, but that's a whole different podcast. But
I also,
yeah.
just real quick, I would have loved, because we did have some people ask, like, hey, what about the other ones, even if they haven't been revealed yet? I would have loved, in part, to have included like a Jabba, because we know that it's coming, but we just don't know what he does. Because
Yeah.
even though I don't know what he does, I'm also still just really excited for Jabba. I have to
Aggression.
assume I'm going to feed something to the Rancor. Or, I was thinking about base design. We haven't seen any bases for set 2, and if we get more bases with epic actions, I was like, man, what if, whether they call it, Jabba's sail barge or they call it the Sarlacc pit, what if one of the bases epic action is that you feed a captured unit to it, and so you defeat, like, if you have a friendly unit that captured something, you defeat it, and that's your epic action, it's just gone. I would love something like that thematically. But anyway, I'm excited for Jabba, and I don't know what he's doing yet.
Yeah, so those of you who may not know yet, there was an image out there that shows in blurry fanned out card fashion what looks to be a command Jabba leader, and also right next to it an aggression Han Solo leader. So when I sat down with Jeremy Zwern and did an interview for Hello There, he did give us a teaser that there was going to be a second leader besides Boba that coming back from set 1, and now we know it's going to be Han. So that's exciting to see what he's going to be, because some people have been playing this Han, the set 1 Han with aggression. What about aggression Han? Double aggression Han? I don't know. I'm excited to see what it is. But yeah, that's what you all chose. I think you look at this and you have some of the maybe more complex leaders. Hunter, I think, falls into that category. Boba Fett, Hunter, Hondo, like a little bit more complex, and people are still kind of figuring out how they work in general. So no surprise, those are a little bit lower. But because like I haven't even had really time to theory craft like a Hondo or something, or a Hunter. But I'm sure there's good decks in there. So we'll see. We'll see how this list. We should do this poll again after it launches and be like, what hero are you playing right now? And see what happens. That'd be kind of fun.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Well, as it is spoiler season, once again, the majority of the episode is going to be talking about spoilers. There was a Fantasy Flight stream this week. They did some Shadows of the Galaxy deck building and playing, and that was fun, getting to see some of the new cards get revealed and all that. And it was fun to see kind of the bounty mechanic and things like that in action. If you're curious about that, definitely go to their YouTube channel and the Fantasy Flight Games YouTube channel, that is, and check that out. It was fun to watch. But not a whole lot to talk about there aside from the spoilers, which I am ready to jump into, because as usual, we have quite a few this week.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about quite a few of them, so we should probably dive in. I'm going to have a lot to say.
All right. Well,
which is saying a lot with me, because I always have a lot to say about spoilers.
We've got 1 hour. We're on a time crunch today, so we'll see if we can do it.
We're going to do it one way or the other.
All right. Well, we will start. Whoops, that's not it. There we go. We will start with I'm controlling this, so it's going to go poorly, of course. We're going to start with a new leader. It's a villainy vigilance leader. It's Kira, who, if you are unfamiliar, was the romantic interest of Han Solo in Han Solo, a Star Wars story, who ended up being apparently a disciple of Darth Maul, part of a criminal organization. And here she is represented in Star Wars Unlimited. She is Underworld for her trait. And then action, pay 1, exhauster, deal 2 damage to a friendly unit, then give a shield token to it. So very interesting, kind of Inquisitor-esque. Instead of readying a unit, you deal damage to it and you give a shield to it. So very vigilance flavored. Do you want to just flip it and take a look at the leader too before we discuss it?
Yeah. I think that it's going to be important to see the whole thing, because there's a lot going on the deploy and a lot going on the leader.
I agree. So here is the deploy side. She's a 0/8, which is interesting. Flips on 5, has grit, and when deployed, heal all damage from each unit. Then deal damage to each unit equal to half its remaining HP rounded down. So she just kind of comes out and softens up the entire board. Now, if you've got a bunch of shields on your things, obviously the damage that is dealt would then be absorbed by that. But you know, it's so maybe you stack a bunch of shields on things and then you flip her and try to soften up the opponent's side of the board. Either way, it's a really interesting ability. I'm curious to see how it's gonna kind of shake out. And she is a rare leader. I had to go back and check. But what's your take on this? I see this and I'm like, there's got to be a decent deck with this, but off the top of my head, I can't picture it. You know,
I like this leader because I don't think, at least with anything that we have seen in set 1 and what has been revealed in set 2 so far, I don't think that we have anything that screams this is for sure for Kira. But instead, she just kind of works well or supports like 2 or 3 different existing archetypes. And so she gives you an option. You could, for example, play her in decks where you would want to play Krennic, for example. You mentioned Inquisitor. That was where my mind went as well. Instead of readying stuff, you can still play a bunch of your grit units. Or maybe you wanted to do the grit archetype, but didn't want to play with aggression for Inquisitor. Now you can run her, still have all your cool vigilance units with grit, and she's got a way to activate them. As you said, the deploy is also very interesting. You heal everything, and then you damage everything. It's both sides of the board. And so if your units have shields, they will not take said damage. So they just straight heal up. Your opponent's units do take damage. So that might lend you to build her with red. And then maybe if you've got damage-based removal, then she pairs with it to deal more efficient blows to your opponent's board state. So when I saw her deploy, I immediately thought of a card like Bombing Run. Bombing Run is something that looks really powerful in theory, and then in practice you realize by the time it's hitting the board, a lot of stuff has more than 3 health, right? Turn 3 or resource 3, I mean, you're already playing 3/4s. But when you get to resource 5, if you can deploy Kira and then play your Bombing Run, you're more likely to just absolutely wipe that side of the board. And then, as you said, if your stuff has shields, that might even survive, right? Because you're going to heal yours up.
Yeah,
it won't take damage from the shield, and then you Bombing Run even your own stuff, but hopefully that's still surviving, and then reactivating your grit if you're all in on that grit archetype. So I think that she just speaks to me because, like I said, she does a bunch of different stuff, and she feels more like an additional puzzle piece than a true build around. But I like that, and I'm kind of excited to see what else we get in this set as a result.
Yeah, I think she would be the best leader to use Tarkin Town as a base. You flip her, deal damage to something, and then you finish off a Tarkin Town. There's some really nice removal option that way. So yeah, she's got some neat tricks that I think we could see her do. So because the thing is she flips on 5, and remember, like she does that to herself as well, right? Yeah. So she kind of becomes a 4/4 when she deploys, because she gives herself 4 damage and gets grit because of that, right? So it says 0/8, but really when she flips, she's probably going to be a 4/4 initially. But that's not to say you can't do this and then heal her up. You'd lose the grit damage, but you could also maybe create a big body, start buffing her, that kind of things. So interesting leader to consider for sure. Ready to move on?
There's also some. I was just going to say real quick, there's some really cool synergy with non-grit things as well. So I mentioned playing her potentially with aggression, because you also have stuff like the Snowtrooper Lieutenant, who gets a buff and overwhelm when he's attacking units that have damage on them. And she's a great way to make sure everything has damage on them. So don't just look at the grit units, kind of look at everything that's going to also care about damage when you're considering her.
For sure.
And now I'm ready to move on. Sorry, I said I have a lot to say. All the stuff that was revealed this week is so exciting.
It is, including, go ahead.
Including Rey. Rey, leader, vigilance, heroism. The leader ability is action, pay 1 and exhaust her. Give an experience token to a unit with 2 or less power. And then for the epic action, you can flip when you control 6 or more resources. At that point, she becomes a ground unit that has a 2/6 body, has the force and fringe tags, has restore 3. That's a lot of healing. And then on attack, you may give an experience token to to a unit with 2 or less power, any unit. And I mentioned that because she is naturally a 2/6, so this means on attack, if you really want to, you can target yourself for that first one, because you're going to have 2 or less power. So she can buff herself, she can buff your other units. I love that it's in vigilance, because there's a lot of units that very specifically early game have like a 2/3 or a 2/4 stat line. So just like that benign 2/4 Sentinel suddenly looks a whole lot more playable if you're considering playing Rey as your leader. There's also really powerful stuff like Yoda that's already in Vigilance. Buffing Yoda seems pretty good.
Yeah.
If you want to pair it with a bunch of Force users, right? She has Force. And if you're trying to kind of go down that path, then you could play Grogu in this list and start buffing your Grogu until he's a monster.
Yeah.
I just think that she offers a lot, and I really, really like her design.
You could make Grogu a 2/7 after a couple turns if you really wanted to, or a 3/8
up to a 3/8 before, and then you throw the lightsaber on him, and suddenly he's a menace.
And Grogu is just this unkillable demon king monster, right? But so she's a little bit, if you attack and you buffer to a 3/7 when she flips, it's a little bit lower statted than a lot of other 6-drops, but she has Restore 3, so it certainly makes up for it. It's potentially a 6 health swing if you attack into the base with her, so I think that's fine. She's not like a 4/7 like some of the other 6, flip on 6 leaders. So, but yeah. Interesting, like I said, interesting take on giving experience tokens to things. I agree that if you're playing in a slower style, that'll be nice to take some of those annoying Sentinel units that are, they're out there. You kind of have to, there's speed bumps, and now they're walls, right? Now there's something that you don't want to attack into because you're just going to die, right? Yep. So, yeah, I think she's...
There's also... one of the other uses I kept thinking about as well is there's, I think, a real benefit to like playing Regional Governor potentially in the main deck, and then just using her to protect it for a couple of turns. Like that's, I think, entirely reasonable. The Restore 3 is also really what lit my eyes up, because you've got like this absolutely nightmarish scenario. If you're an aggro player and you sit across from somebody and they go, with like a restored arc on turn 1, Yoda on turn 2, Kanan on turn 3, all of those are restoring. Right. Maybe you get a break on like resource 5, but then you go to 6 and they deploy Obi-Wan and then, deploy Rey. So now you have Restore 3 and the big shield. And then on the next turn, it's Luke who has his Restore 3 and his ability. That Vigilance heroism thing could become one of the more annoying decks if they hit what I call like the perfect on curve moment. It's a bit scary. The Sabine player in me is a little worried.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get more options in the cunning category. You and I are both cunning Sabine players, so yeah. I'm sure we'll have new ways to deal with these kind of shenanigans. But let's move on. Our 2 leaders revealed, and then we have our Vigilance Villainy card, Lom Pike. Dealer in Truths. He costs 4. He's Underworld. He's a 4/6. 4 for a 4/6. Let that sink in for a second. On attack, you may give a shield token to an enemy unit. If you do, give a shield token to a friendly unit. He also smuggles in for just 1 more than he costs. That's kind of significant too when we're looking at the cost of smuggle things across the board. But interesting ability, right? You can give one of your guys a shield, but if you do, you have to give an enemy a shield as well. Obviously, you can engineer that in a way where the shield is going to be as little impact as possible. So I think it's neat. I think just the fact that this is a 4 for a 4/6 is pretty strong. There's probably going to be a lot of scenarios where like you're just going to play it, for that reason. And the shield stuff is like, all right, if you see a good opportunity to use it. But it's a may thing. It's not a must thing. So you can still attack and just be a vanilla 4/6 on turns where it doesn't, behoove you to give it anything as shield. So yeah, I think it's a neat rare. It seems pretty versatile. Obviously, Smuggle gives it even more versatility. It's like cheaper Smuggle it, only 1 more. So yeah, overall, I think a card that's too good to not see pop up in decks once the set comes out.
Yeah, the stat line by itself is already really strong.
Yeah.
Like the on attack is just icing on the cake. It's 4 for a 4/6 with a decent smuggle. That by itself was probably playable, especially when it's in Vigilance, because we do know that there are some double Vigilance decks floating around. Double Blue Iden, for example, is something that just showed up at my store showdown.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of card where it gives you a good board presence, but this is the kind of unit that you also, like if you don't have your Child Send, you could play this and then perhaps you're running... whether it's Devotion or, the upgrade that gives something Sentinel, right? Turns this into a 5/7 Sentinel. Really, really scary stuff. So I really like this unit. I think that it's going to find a home one way or the other.
It's way too good. Yeah. I don't really have anything more to add. I think that's basically it. I think it just looks like a very solid card. Definitely find its home in a few different decks. Also, the Underworld tag, I feel like is mattering more and more as we see more reveals. So let's move on to Midnight Repairs. Speaking of double vigilance, well, here's one.
Yeah, this is a 2-cost double vigilance event, has the tactic tag, and it simply says heal up to 8 damage from any number of units. And this is very cheeky to me because it doesn't even say friendly units. So there are scenarios where you could use this defensively to turn off your opponent's grit. Right? If they deploy Kira and then you just heal her and she goes to a 0-8, you just bought yourself some time. Like, yeah, you still have to deal with her, but there is some interplay there that is not lost on me for this particular set. This isn't uncommon, so you could even do that in limited. I feel like most of the time you're never going to get the full 8 healing with this, but
I agree, yeah.
It's nice that you at least have an option that essentially says heal your entire board. And in Vigilance, they might come up. Who knows?
I mean, you could play double Vigilance Kira. Or honestly, if you're playing just Kira and whatever other aspect you want, like it might be worth paying 4 to just heal up your side of the board after flipping her too. So yeah, I think this is one of those double aspect cards where I see this and I'm like, I could see myself playing off aspect. I would pay 4 to heal my board if I had a deck that would be consistently getting, a pretty wide board out there with high health. It makes a lot of logical sense. So yeah, interesting card. Although I gotta say the art, it doesn't look like Midnight.
It does not.
Maybe
but then again,
late afternoon.
We don't know what Midnight is on that particular system either. So
touché. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? But I do say the uncommon is very relevant because we have already seen, at least in the common slots, some very high health units that have been spoiled. I was thinking about that Wookiee. Gentle Giant, for example.
Yeah.
Using this to just like heal that back to full or heal something that's just a massive sentinel. What was it? The space unit. The name is escaping me right now, but there's another big sentinel in space now as well. I could see this being a nightmare.
Yeah, I think again, like paying 4 off aspect. I think assuming you have 1 vigilance in your deck, I think that's totally worth it. So another card I would pick up in limited. I would very much consider drafting it if I was playing even 1 vigilance. Yeah. All right. Moving on to oh boy. This is the card that will make probably one of the most waves, I think, in set 2. When I saw this, I was like, all right, your Voltron leader is now in serious jeopardy because this is Rival's Fall. It's a tactic, cost 6, single vigilance, defeat a unit. It can be a non-leader unit. It can be a leader unit. So all those decks, because we have seen some successful decks that have been, Voltron is what they call them, where you play your leader, you put a bunch of upgrades on them, and because you can't use, Vanquish or Takedown on that, they just kind of live and they never die, especially Trute. Like Trute and we decks kind of like thrive on that strategy. But no more, as this will come in as a very solid sideboard card at the least. But I've got a feeling there'll be plenty of slower decks that run at least, 1 or 2 of these main board. I mean, yeah, it costs 6, but if you can remove any unit in the game with it, that's pretty powerful. This is like the single target removal. So no surprises in blue. We had to expect it was coming eventually. I think honestly, like I'm kind of happy to see this card because I was a little bit worried about some of those just power up your leader with a bunch of upgrade decks getting a little bit too strong as more upgrades come out. So I think this is the perfect time to introduce this card in the game, personally.
I agree. At first, I think, the same knee-jerk reaction that a lot of people had, which is like, oh, man, like, obviously playing your leader is one of the most fun things you can do, and I kind of don't want it to just be answered. But I think 6 is the appropriate cost for something like that. Because let's be honest, that's a pretty hefty cost. But it also, I think, is the right cost for when you are trying to thwart that, as you called it, the Voltron strategy. Yeah, we've seen a little bit of it in set 1, but something that really had me concerned was the Boba Fett leader with the new Boba Fett's armor, right? If you imagine the current like Boba Fett green list, but just also adding, Boba Fett's armor to set 1, and this card doesn't exist, he becomes incredibly difficult to deal with, right? So I think having something like this where, you know, it costs one more, so you either have to ramp to play at the same turn, or they get, you know, one cool turn with their leader and then you have an answer and it takes all your resources for that. I think that's fair. I also think that, you know, having played a lot of Vader recently, there are some decks that, like, once you deploy Vader as a leader, they just have no way to kill him. He's just alive for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So I think that having another answer available for him as well is just a good thing for the health of the game. And so, yeah, my initial reaction was kind of like a, aw, bummer. But when I think about overall player experience, I think that this is actually going to be a net positive. I like the card.
Yeah, this is a game health card for sure, and it is good for the game. And like, if you think about it too, a lot of leaders don't even care about this card. Like Sabine could care less about this card. You're never going to have that happen, right? The game's going to be over by the time they're going to be playing it, right? And you also have to consider that, you know, if they use it on their 6 resource turn to kill the flip on 6 leader you just flipped, a lot of times there aren't too many games where that leader is going to be the only unit you have on your board. And so they're like, I spend my entire turn getting rid of your leader. You're like, all right, well, my leader flips for free, and I already have these other units, and I can spend all my resources to play more units. So my board is still in a pretty decent spot a lot of times, even if you do instantly kill my leader. So this isn't like the end of the world for any leader that flips on 6 or later either, if you really think about it in a functioning game scenario, right? So yeah, it's easy to be scared about it. It's definitely a good card. It is definitely a card that we will see, like, as long as it is available to use in constructed play. But it's not a problem card. It is a healthy card. I'm very happy to see it for sure. All right, next, go ahead.
Adelphi or Adelphi. It's probably Adelphi.
I always said Adelphi. I don't know.
Yeah. Adelphi Patrol Wing. This is a 5-cost space unit in Heroism and Command. Has a 4/6 stat line. It is a New Republic vehicle fighter. When played, you may attack with a unit. If you have the initiative, it gets +2/+0 for this attack. I personally adore this. I think that the stat line is great for the cost, especially in space. I love that it is in the same vein as cards that we saw in set 1 with the lieutenants, right?
Yeah.
But it's any, you know, you get to attack with any unit, but then it's any deck can also benefit from it because it just cares about initiative. And initiative is one of the cooler features of the game. And I love when they expand on the strategic importance, the value of that. So just overall, regardless of whether this was, you know, Heroism or an X-Wing or whatever, like, this is just a win with me from a design standpoint. I like this card.
Yeah, it's cool to see more, you know, bigger vehicles in Command as well on the Heroism side, right? I see this card and I'm like, oh, I'm one step closer to my Wedge vehicles deck, right? And so I think it fits right in with that. You know, like you said, it makes you care about initiative. So I think it's just going to be a fun card. A 4/6 in space is no joke. That is a strong space unit. So in a limited scenario, just playing this and not really even caring about the when played is, you know, something that might give your opponent a hard time. So I think it's just going to be a good card for that. It's a common, so you'll probably see it a good amount. Definitely one to keep an eye on, I think, for limited. But yeah, just a fun card. I'm glad we see it. I like the art. I like all the space art. What can I say? It's neat. Yeah. Let's move on. The Marauder. Shuttling the Bad Batch. It is, in fact, the shuttle of the Bad Batch, if you watched any of the show there. It is a Command Heroism card. Another one. Costs 5. It's a 4/5 in space. So another 5 for a 4/5. Good, decent space body. Has Ambush even. When played, choose a card in your discard pile. Put it into play as a resource if it shares a name with a unit you control. I love that because this works right in with all the Bad Batch stuff we've seen. It works right in with Hunter and his leader ability. And it's going to be, you know, core in any deck that kind of does that. And it's a neat way to, you know, look at the game, right? Where all the time we're playing card games and we're like, oh, I've got these duplicates of these unique units. I guess I'll just resource one. Or in other games, you're like, well, I just can't play this card. It's neat to see that specific aspect of playing a card game with unique units or unique characters in it. addressed in a way where you're rewarded for having those and manipulating them through your hand and through your deck and through your discard pile in certain ways. So this card is really exciting for me because I just like the strategy that it continues to help enable. Very, very cool card, and I'm excited to play around this strategy of having multiples of the same unit, right? Because it's not even unique, I suppose. It's just same unit name, but all my points still stand. Very cool.
Listen, if you're listening, Danny, Brian, Jeremy, it is not lost on me that you designed the squad of clones to be more powerful or have cooler interactions if there are multiples of themselves. Mm-hmm. To me, thematically, like that is such a home run where, yes, you're playing into the unique thing like you were saying, but it's literally like, hey, we're clones. And if there's more of us, we're more powerful. I just love it. This card is also great. 4/5 in space for 5. Again, pretty strong stat line. Not quite as strong as the one we just saw, but you get the ambush keyword, which we know is incredibly powerful. And then the potential bonus of the when played of ramp. Ramp is never a bad thing, but if you're on a more, kind of controlling command build, and again, if you're maybe playing Hunter as your leader, he deploys on 7. This would set this, scenario up where you could play this on 5 and then you're deploying Hunter a turn later, right? So 5 might seem like a weird turn for triggering a ramp ability, but being able to hypothetically like resupply and then following turn Marauder into a fast Hunter could be a really strong play against slower decks, for example.
Yeah, it does kind of enable some fun, aggressive, kind of mid-rangey sort of moves. I love the art on this card, by the way, too. I mean, look at this, right? I think a lot of times it's easy to fall into the trap when you're doing Star Wars art of just drawing a picture of a frame from a movie or a show. And we've seen a lot of that, right? I think that's been the natural inclination of artists working on Star Wars games for decades, right? We've seen that in many, many, many games over the years. I like that this card has the ship at an angle you don't often see, ships shown at. I love that there's all this motion in the background because of the way they did the blurring with it. As a guy with an art degree, worked in graphic design for a little while, still do lots of drawing and digital painting for fun. I'm very impressed by the art on this card, and bravo to Christian Papazoglukas. I'm so sorry for how I tried to pronounce that last name, but that's the best I can do. Papazoglukas.
Christian Papa. He is the Papa of art because this is a great art piece. I also
awesome.
love it. I love the lighting, and I'm really looking forward to this in hyperfoil because I think that the foiling treatment with the light scheme is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the best looking cards in the set, hands down. So, little note on the art. Home run there. All right, let's move on before I try to say this guy's name again. Go ahead.
Yeah, we don't need you apologizing to the Corn people.
No. Speaking of clones.
Yeah, speaking of clones, the next card that we're going to talk about is Choose Sides. This is a 7-cost event in Command. It is a plan. You choose a friendly non-leader unit and an enemy non-leader unit. Exchange control of those units. So you do the old swippy swappy. And at first glance, I thought to myself, like, that feels kind of expensive for a 7-cost event.
Sure.
But the more I thought about it, it's single aspect, and you can obviously do the thing where you way trade up, right? Like you could send them a 1 or a 2 drop and then get their big expensive thing they just played for 7. Mm-hmm. But there's also some sneaky things that you could do where, again, because of the turn sequence, they might have a very relevant unit that is still readied. And so you might attack with something as your first action. And then if they don't attack, when you do the swap, you're going to gain control of it in the ready state. So you can kind of extend the threat of your turn quite a bit. Yeah. I think that in practice, this is going to end up being a really powerful card. And it's growing on me. I kind of like it. The more I think about ways that I could utilize this within the turn structure of Star Wars Unlimited.
I'm looking right now because I did see a question about I saw a question on Twitter that hadn't been answered yet about if my opponent if I don't have a unit out, my opponent does, can I use this and just take their unit? And the general rule in Star Wars Unlimited is do as much of the card as you can. So in that sense, I was like, okay, maybe you probably can. But as I read this card now, and I look at the two separate things that are happening on this card, choose a friendly non-leader unit and an enemy non-leader unit. Well, if you don't have a unit, you can't do that part of the card. And then exchange control of those units. Well, you couldn't do step 1, so it seems like you can't do step 2. So I'm actually not so sure that you could just grab an enemy unit if you don't have one yourself out. I could be wrong on that. I would love to hear a rules, an actual like a confirmation from the Fantasy Flight side on that. Because just going by the basics, I'm not so sure you could, but I'm not confident enough to say for sure one way or the other. What do you think?
I could go either way. So you're right. Normally the rule of thumb is you do as much of the card as you can.
Yeah.
The only thing that gives me hesitation here is the sentence structure and syntax and things like that, especially in trading card games, is usually really important.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever come from any other, very complex card games, whether that's, Magic or Flesh and Blood or whatever, you know that the way things are worded are usually done so with an intentionality. So the placement of this and makes me feel like you have to satisfy all of the first sentence.
I agree.
Because it's not choose a friendly non-leader unit, then choose an enemy non-leader unit. You know what I mean? It's and so I feel like you have to satisfy both. But again, the rule of thumb has always been, as well, as you said, try to do as much of the card as you possibly can. So I don't know. I honestly see this ruled either way. I will hold out for a more official ruling. My gut instinct, and again, it's not based on unlimited rules interpretation, it's just my card game in general, is that you would have to satisfy both halves of that but we'll have to see.
No, I agree. I agree completely with that. I think that if and again, just like looking through the play a card rules and the comprehensive rules right now on my other monitor, I don't see anything that would make me think that you could just, yoink your opponent's unit without having one out yourself. I'm going to go on the side of you need to have a unit on both sides to be able to play this card. Or actually, I shouldn't say it that way, because you can definitely play a card in this game that does nothing. You can just spend 7 resources. The card doesn't do anything, and it goes to your discard pile. That is absolutely something you can do. But I am confident that if you, I'll say, I think if you play this card and they have a unit and you do not, you're not going to get their unit.
Yeah, that would be my interpretation. So if you're wondering like why I'm being so hung on the and, if this was worded, choose a friendly non-leader unit, then choose an enemy non-leader unit, you could do the second half if the first half failed.
Yeah.
But because it's and before, the rest of the card hits, but all in that first sentence, because it's and, it makes me feel like in order to get to the exchange control of those units, you have to have satisfied all of the conditions above.
Yep.
And so I think what would happen is like you could play the card, and if there's not a duality of targets here, right? If you don't meet all of the conditions, then you play the card, nothing happens, as you were saying, right? You can still play a card that has nothing happen. You just don't exchange control of those units because you didn't meet the first sentence requirements.
Yeah.
That's the way that I would interpret it, but
I agree. If we were meant to be able to just take an opponent's unit, I would think it would have been worded something like choose a friendly non-leader unit, choose an enemy non-leader unit. So it'd be 2 separate sentences. Then exchange control of those units. Yeah. So anyway, that's an interesting card. A lot of conversation going on around that one. That's our 2 cents on it. I'm sure we'll get confirmation in the next probably a day or 2 about it. But should be strong. I mean, yeah, swapping units should be a lot of fun. Moving on to none other than Poe Dameron. Quick to improvise. He costs 5. He's aggression, heroism. He is a 6/6, so a 6/6 for 5. Nice numbers there. On attack, discard up to 3 cards from your hand. For each card discarded this way, choose a different option. There are 3 options here. 1, deal 2 damage to a unit or base. 2, defeat an upgrade. 3, an opponent discards a card from their hand. Wow. I mean, this is a legendary card, and it is absolutely living up to that legendary tag in terms of what it can do, because all 3 of those things are potentially very strong. Being able to play 6/6 for 5 and do 6 damage to your opponent's base by discarding 3 cards is pretty amazing. The thing that everybody's bringing up right now on social media, like, and I'll talk about it too, is that like he costs 5, and then Black 1, his ship can be played for 6 resources, and that's the one where you discard your hand and drop to 3 cards. So this card empties your hand in a productive way, so that when you play Black 1 the next turn, you can just draw 3 cards. So it synergizes well with his ship, which is something I love to see. But man, like very strong aggression card, I think. And you know, again, another way to sort of like mess with the discard mechanic in this game. So pretty exciting. I'm pretty hyped about this card.
I'm excited about this card because even without the on attack portion, it's 5 for a 6/6.
Yeah,
like that's a solid stat line just by itself. And then on attack, you get to potentially do cool stuff, and you can do it over and over, right? It's not just an on play where you're going to do this once. Every time that you're swinging with Poe, if you want, you could just discard 1 card. And since you're at that point in an aggressive deck, likely drawing 2 cards per turn anyway, that might be better than what you drew. And just discarding 1 card is still really strong when you can deal 2 damage to a unit or base, right? It's just directional, or make your opponent discard a card from their hand. That's the other one that's really punishing, because against slower control decks, until they stabilize, they very often start to run out of cards before you as the aggressive player. So being able to put them in a position where you can actually eat away their entire hand before they get to stabilize is also, I think, really, really important. So I like everything that this card does. And then the last thing that I want to mention about this card, because Tyler Parrott just posted about it on Twitter like an hour ago as we're recording this. This confirms that we get Finn in this set, because Tyler said, since set 2 is our introduction to the sequels, it was important to have the full main cast in the set. And since Black 1 was in set 1, we of course made him directly synergize with it. Mm-hmm. So we've seen Rey, right? We've seen Kylo. We have Poe here. We haven't seen Finn yet. But this leads me to believe that we're going to see Finn. And I would wager that BB-8 is included as part of that cast. I think we're going to need a BB-8 card too.
If you can't talk about the main cast of the sequels and not include BB-8, so I would imagine we see a BB-8 in here. I'd be surprised if we didn't. Now the question is, will Finn be a leader or a unit? That's what I'm wondering. And will we maybe get like a heroism TIE fighter? Because you know, they technically stole one in Force Awakens. Like, there's all sorts of cool stuff that questions that I want answered now. But
you know what I just thought? What if we get a Han, and the Han has printed on him bounty? If your opponent controls Kylo Ren, give him an experience token.
Oh, or what if it's old Han? What if it's,
that's what I mean, right? Like if Kylo Ren kills Han,
interesting.
Then
card synergy. All right. Well, we'll see. We know the Han's coming, but this card is the first thing that's ever made me think maybe I do want to play Energy Conversion Lab Sabine after all. Because like being able to ECL this guy in is it is nuts, right? Like the potential to ECL him in, kill something, make your opponent discard 3 cards. It's like, good luck playing the game. Like this card is like with ECL is potentially like devastating in Sabine. Like I know we both love Cunning Sabine, but honestly, this card makes me think like ECL Sabine is still very much on the menu as we move forward in the game. I may even want to play it, and I think it's objectively a worse version of Sabine. But you know, cards like this, I'm like, man, if we get more stuff like that with ECL, that is pretty exciting.
Sneak attack still exists.
Sneak attack does still exist. Yeah, you can just sneak attack him out for what it'd be on your 4 resource turn, 2 for sneak attack, and then 2 to pay the rest of the cost. Okay, so it's still probably better than ECL anyway. But if you really love ECL, hey, you got new toys. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this has the potential to replace Zeb in those lists.
Easily,
I see Zeb a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously Zeb is there for a very specific thing, and it's very good in, you know, Sabine mirrors. But this card just has so much upside that
does way more.
I would run this.
Yeah. All right, we should probably move on. Enough gushing about Poe. Moving on to, go ahead and take it.
Stolen Landspeeder. I love this card, by the way. This is a 1-cost ground unit in aggression. Has a 3/2 stat line. Has Underworld, Vehicle, and Speeder as its tags. When played, if you played this unit from your hand, an opponent takes control of it. So for 1, you can give your opponent a 3/2 unit. But wait, there's more. It has bounty. If you own this unit. Now, when they say this, they mean you as the owner of the cards.
That's right.
Not control, own. So if you own this unit, play it from your discard pile for free and give an experience token to it. So the idea is you play this for 1 to give your opponent a card with bounty on it. And then when you do defeat this, you get a bigger unit back. You gave them a 3/2, you're going to get a 4/3, but also theoretically you've probably gotten some benefit from triggering the bounty as well, right? Like this is a card that I could see a control boss running or something like that, so that if your opponent doesn't have bounties, it's just one more way to make sure that you find a way to give it to them. I love the design of it. I love that it's stolen land speeder, so like they kind of steal it and then you steal it back. I like the synergies that it enables for set 2 specifically. I think that this card is very, very cool.
Yeah, it's the land speeder from the beginning of the Solo movie, the Han Solo movie as well. If you want a place where that particular machine is from, I believe that's the one that he steals right at the beginning of the film. Yeah, even though it doesn't look like it's him in the driver's seat, but I have to hold the card in hand, zoom in, enhance. Wait, can we enhance? Oh no, wait, I'm messing. I don't want to mess with that. What did I mess with?
No, you just clicked on a card that's on a different layer, didn't you?
I think it was a cave ball. All right, moving on. Let's get out of here. Okay,
moving on.
It's Bill Burr. I mean, it's Miggs Mayfield. It's
no, you got it right.
There you go. Yeah, it's a 2 for a aggression, 2/2, 2 for a 2/2. Triggerman, Underworld. When a player discards a card from their hand, you may deal 2 damage to a unit or base. Use this ability only once each round. Guess who Kylo Ren's best friend is on turn 1? It's none other than Miggs Mayfield, because you play Miggs, then use Kylo leader ability, discard something, and then Miggs does 2 damage. So suddenly your 2/2 for 2 becomes potentially 4 damage at minimum. Card that your opponent has to worry about. So neat addition to the whole discard archetype here.
I really like this card. The one downside is obviously the stat line, right? You're paying 2 for only a 2/2, but it's just whenever any player discards a card. So yeah, this is great with Kylo, but also if you are somebody who is a degenerate and loves making your opponent discard cards, this is great with Force Throw, Spark of the Rebellion. You might even consider running this like either running this as the off aspect card, or maybe you want to run like Bodhi and just pay 5 for him or something as well. In those cunning lists. But I love this card. One of my favorite things when I used to play Magic the Gathering were to play like Megrim decks. If you're not familiar, it's an enchantment that basically says when your opponent discards a card, they take 2 damage. I love anytime you can like give yourself like your own mission, right? Like alternate win cons kind of. And so this just hits home for me.
I think it's good to include main deck if you are a person who will be discarding a lot. Otherwise, if you run to a meta where a lot of other people are playing discard, throw them on the sideboard. Why not? Like Charmer said, you can use it that way too. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. It's the Rokai Gunship, 2 for a 2/1 in space. It's an aggression vehicle. When defeated, deal 1 damage to a unit or base. So there you go. Nice, pretty simple. Pay 1 more than you would normally for a TIE fighter stat line, but when it dies, you do 1 damage to a unit or base. So it's kind of like a teeny tiny little space K2SO almost. But I think it's a good addition to aggression decks probably.
Yeah, I love this in limited because it's just 1 damage to any unit. So it gives you early space presence. It's a low curve drop in case you have a bad hand, but also you've got that utility of, hey, if I didn't have ground units early, but then like later on I get into trouble or whatever, then this might help me clean it up. It's just nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's just nice. Well,
it's just nice.
It's just
good
nice.
Limited card.
Another card with great art by Christian Papazoglukas.
Papa Chris.
I'll get that one eventually. Moving on. It's a Bravado. Go ahead.
Bravado is a 5-cost event in aggression, has the innate tag. If you've defeated an enemy unit this phase, this event costs 2 less to play, so it's 5, but potentially 3, and then the rest of it simply says ready a unit. That's right, no conditions, no 3 or less power, none of that. It's just any unit.
Yeah.
And at an uncommon, this card feels very, very good to me.
I agree. I mean, you look at some of the bigger cards, because this is, you'd probably be looking at playing this on readying something larger. We did get a card. I forget the name of it. What is it? I forget the name of the card in set 1 where it's like pay 3 and ready a unit that has like 3 or less power or something like that. It costs 3 or less, one of those two. But this, obviously, like you said, can ready any unit. As long as you defeat an enemy unit, costs the same as the card from set 1. So yeah, I think you could do a lot of fun shenanigans with this. You could also just play it in a deck that's red and goes a little bit higher end, and get 2 attacks out of something big in the late game when your opponent might not be expecting it. Right? They're planning their actions around you being able to attack one time with something. Well, surprise. I look at this and I'm like, I want to put this in my big old Bo-Katan Kryze Mandalorian deck, right? Where I'm going to be playing some bigger, more upgraded stuff later on, right? And if I can come in and swing twice with something that does 5 or 6 late game, that can be game ending,
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because at first I was like, okay, obviously there's a lot of considerations to take with this card when it comes to aggressive decks, but then I was like, man, you know what's even better though? Because it says when you've defeated an enemy unit, if you're playing control, you're defeating enemy units anyway.
Yeah.
And it sure would feel good to like attack with your Rey or your Luke Skywalker, restore 3, and then ready them and restore 3 more, right? Yeah. So when you start thinking about it from like, oh, this could also give me some really big triggers on my on attacks that let me stabilize or whatever. I think this card's very flexible. I really like it in limited. I like it in constructed, and I can't wait to mess around with it.
Can ready leaders. It just says ready unit. So yeah, it is a scary card. I think it's something that people are going to need to be aware of in the later stages of the game going forward here if you're playing against aggression, because you don't want to get caught unawares by a double striking big old unit. So something to think about. All right. On to the cunning editions for this last week. It's Bazin Natal, Spy for the First Order. Cost 2, Underworld. Cunning, Villainy, 1/3 stat line. When played, look at an opponent's hand. You may discard one of those cards. If you do, that player draws a card. It can smuggle out as well for 4. And again, the same aspects as the card has natively. But I think it's a great ability. I mean, man, first turn, you just take a look at your opponent's hand and get rid of like the thing you don't want to face the most. And sure, they draw a card, but like, who cares, right? I mean, you and I have both used like Lothal Insurgent in our Sabine Cunning decks, because when you play that and you make them discard and draw one, there's a high likelihood that it's disruptive to what their plans were going to be. So even if they get to refill that card, yeah, you can still kind of throw them off their game plan. So it's potentially very good. So there's a reason this card is a rare. I think it is a rare quality card.
Yeah, this card is very, very important for Villainy specifically. We've already seen in set 1 a lot of the Villainy control decks are paying extra for Spark of the Rebellion, for example. And granted, that gets rid of the card permanently and they don't draw another card. But the entire reason that you were playing Spark in those control decks anyway was because you want to target a specific thing you're worried about. This still does the same thing. And so unless they get, lucky and they top deck exactly what you just got rid of, now you don't have to pay the out of aspect tax, right? It's still 2, you get the same effect, and you get a body out of it, which is not half bad. So I like this, and I love that it's got smuggle. I think that there's a lot of upside, and this will be the Villainy version of Spark of Rebellion for a lot of decks.
Yeah, totally. I think it's a very strong card for all those reasons. And like I said, we've seen how effective Spark of Rebellion can be now. Well, Villainy's got it for 2, essentially.
Yep.
On 2. Go ahead.
Oh, man. This card has me feeling some kind of way. Dryden Voss.
Oh, yeah.
7-cost ground unit. Villainy and Cunning has the Underworld tag because, of course, he does. 5/7 stat line. But wait, there's more. Shielded keyword. And when played, choose a captured card guarded by a unit you control. You may play it for free under your control. So you capture somebody and then you flip them to your side. That seems really, really good when you're also getting a 5/7 shielded body out of it. This is a monster.
I love it. I mean, we've seen a lot of underworld cards that deal with the villains from the Solo movie, deal with capturing, and you know, of course, you'd have the leader, you know, capitalize on all that, right? So, I think it's great. You know, I can't wait to capture things in my Han Solo set 1 deck, and then U-Wing reinforcements to bring out Dryden Voss and flip something to my side. I've been playing a lot of Han lately, so that's why I'm thinking of this. That does not sound very feasible at all, but it's funny that you could do it. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. I like that capturing and then exploiting having captured something is a great thing to include in the game. It's playing the game in a thematic way, which is very important for a Star Wars game, and this nails it. So yeah, it's exciting. Very cool.
This card's really good. Just full stop. Unless all of the capture cards in the game are just not good by themselves, in which case obviously that hurts this value. But assuming that they're at any sort of reasonable rate, I feel like this card is very, very strong.
Yeah, for sure.
End of evaluation.
It is legendary too, so there you go, another legendary card to think about. Moving on, it is a card that I'm quite excited about. I think everybody's quite excited about this one. First of all, this is like some of the coolest art I've ever seen in this game. I love the action from the ships, the angles, the
this would make a great mat.
Oh yeah, I hope we get a mat, and this will look great as well in hyperspace and hyperfoil as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Ahmad Mir, for some awesome art. Triple Dark Raid. Costs 3 Cunning Villainy. It's a tactic. Search the top 7 cards of your deck for a vehicle and play it. Put the other cards on the bottom of your deck in a random order, as you often do when you search things. It costs 5 less and enters play ready. Return it to its owner's hand at the end of the phase. So there is so much you can do with this. You know, go fish for something, you know, play it for cheap. This card itself only costs 3, so you can play it on like resource turn 5 and get a 7 drop out, right? And yeah, it you know, goes to your owner's hand at the end of the phase, but whatever, you've got that card that you wanted searched up and in your hand for a future turn anyway. So yeah, it's just a great rare card.
All of the things that I already like doing with sneak attack, this is just bonkers with it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, though, obviously, one downside, right? It's villainy, so you can't, you know, likely anyway, go fetch a Millennium Falcon or whatever.
Right.
And it does require a vehicle, right? It is, but like when you build around this, it's going to be so impactful, just really any way that you look at it. Anything that has a good when played ability, very relevant. Anything that has any sort of immediate impact, so like cards like that have ambush, for example, very, very strong. I'm surprised that this got printed. Like that's all I keep thinking about. Like when I look at this, I'm like, how is this not way like better than I think it? Like I don't know. Maybe it's not as bad as I think it is in practice. But like when I compare this to like U-Wing, for example, U-Wing, like you get the 7 and you get to keep them in play, so you're paying 7 for 7. But this is 3 for 5. You get likely immediate value at a key, early point in the game stage, and then whatever you bounce back to your hand, you're going to get to replay it again, right? So again, I'm foaming at the mouth to build around this thing.
I mean, whatever you play would theoretically have a great when played, so you get to do it twice, right? Because you're going to get to do it, and then as long as it lives through the turn, which it probably would, because it's going to probably be larger than what your opponent can deal with at the time. You get to do that twice. So yeah, card looks nuts. I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of crazy plays with it. Awesome art again. Excited to use this one for sure. All right, moving on to our. Go ahead. It's your turn.
Coruscant Dissident. This is a 3-cost ground unit in Heroism and Cunning. It is a 3/4 stat line. Underworld and Twi'lek. On attack, you may ready a resource. I personally think this is potentially really strong, specifically in some of those Han lists where you're already kind of doing some cheeky things with resources. You want to have some sort of value in that 3 slot. That deck tends to run a bunch of 3s. This could potentially fit in there. The only drawback is I think that it's kind of competing with some of the other cards already in the deck. So whether or not it's good enough to kind of unseat them in the deck list, we'll have to wait and see. But in theory, so again, I don't know about in practice, but in theory, I think I like this card.
Yeah, I think there's going to be moments where it feels very strong if your resources just line up to use it, perfectly. And then there's going to be a lot of moments where it feels like just a 3/4 for 3, right? And you're ready a resource but it's like, whatever, I'm not even using it, So it kind of depends on that. I think it'll work well in some of the lower to the ground aggressive decks when you want to do something and play like another 2-drop or 3-drop along with attacking with this. But again, it all depends on the context. So the goodness of this card depends on how reliably you can put it in a position where it will let you play an additional card that you wouldn't have been able to play otherwise. So where, that's hard to set up as consistently as you'd hope it would be, as you'd think it would be maybe. I think this is a good card at the uncommon slot, and I think, like I said, it's going to feel really good sometimes, and it's going to feel like a vanilla 3/4 other times, which isn't a bad stat line. So I think on the virtue of that alone, we're still going to see it used a bit, but we'll see what the experimentation brings, I think is all there is to see with this one. Yeah. All right, moving on to the final card we're going to take a look at today. It is a neutral card. It is Street Gang Recruiter, 5 for a 4/4. When played, you may return an Underworld card from your discard pile to your hand. This is really interesting because it's got plenty of functionality in a limited sense, of course. But also if you're playing like a heavy Underworld deck, you might want to keep this in there, right? Even though not a lot of neutral cards end up in premier decks. But I could see if you really feel like you need a way to recur an Underworld card from your discard pile, this is a great way to do it. I mean, you only get a 4/4 body at 5, so it's a little bit understated for the cost. It is a neutral common, but the ability might be good enough that we might maybe possibly see people use it. We'll have to see if there's enough good Underworld cards to fill out the slots, or if this is going to have to take one,
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I think that the first neutral card that we're going to see get, decent widespread play that isn't restock will be the Mandalorian one, because I think that one has some decent upside in a Mandalorian heavy deck. But I could see this making it into an Underworld heavy list, kind of the same way we saw Bounty Hunter Crew start to creep up in some of the event heavy lists, just because it got you back an event.
Yeah.
And this doesn't have ambush, right? So you don't get the kind of 2-for-1 value that the crew is giving you. But what's really interesting to me is this can actually get back the crew, because that's an Underworld card.
True.
This could also get back, cards like Bosk, Fett's Fire Spray, Chewie, Han, Boba Fett, like the legendary one, right? I'm trying to think of what are like the marquee stuff from set 1 anyway that we knew had the Underworld tag. So
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba, Millennium Falcon, because that always gets me, because as Underworld but not Rebel. It's the only card that I can't hit with my Rebel stuff in my Sabine deck.
I've accidentally tried to Fleet Lieutenant my Millennium Falcon more times
I
than
know,
I want to
right? And I'm sure there's other ones that I'm like forgetting, and then there's all the stuff in set 2 that we're getting, right? So this I think it's very good in limited, because there will be enough Underworld stuff in the limited environment where, a 4/4 for 5 isn't the end of the world, but if it gets you back something key, I think that's important. The other thing is to start paying attention to events. I know right now there's not a lot of events that have the Underworld tag. It might even just be stuff in set 2, now that I'm thinking about it, but
I'd have to look through the list.
It's something to keep an eye on going forward, right? As you said earlier, hey, Underworld's popping up a whole lot more. Well, here's one of the payoffs.
Yep. And there you go. So nice to see some more Underworld synergy in there. And on that note, that is it. That is the spoilers for this episode. And that's kind of the episode as well. So again, we'll cover some other topics. We've even been talking a little bit about, moving the spoilers to its own show as well. So as we kind of go through a transition here at Ice Cave Radio, we're kind of reworking the idea of how we put all these things together as well. So at any rate, it's always fun to just talk about spoilers and spoiler season, though. I never get tired of that. But it'd be fun to talk about some other topics as well in times that are not just outside of spoiler season. So Well, we're working on that. A plan is being formulated. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody. Any final words before we close this thing out, Charmer?
May the force be with you.